How are you feeling?
Relief, first of all, in the muscle, in the leg.
And you're not worried about any potential damage to your body?
Not at all. The opposite, actually. I really believe I can be cancer-free for a long time if I continue, consume cannabis.
Yes, he said cancer-free. Very early studies on mice in Israel, Spain, and the United States are now showing the potential of marijuana to kill cancer cells. It's exciting research, but it is still in its infancy, and it's inconclusive. This program at Sheba is well established, and experts say a teaching tool for using marijuana in other hospitals.
Do you think this could happen in the United States?
I don't know that there's yet enough really concrete evidence of cannabis's benefit that's satisfactory, at least in that context. I think it's going to come.
But it could be slow going.
The FDA has been great at approving studies, but National Institute of Drug Abuse has been really stonewalling and blocking any studies looking at therapeutic effects of cannabis because that's not their mandate. Their mandate is to look at the harms of drug use.
It's very easy to blame an organization.
Dr. Nora Volkov, who is the director of NIDA, says they are not standing in the way. She claims they are not the only government institute that approves marijuana research.
If you would come up with a grant that says, okay, this is going to be a treatment for drug addiction, then it would go to us. But if it's cancer, it goes to the Cancer Institute. If it is schizophrenia, it goes to NIMH. And so the institutes have a mission with certain diseases.
What is clear, there are bureaucratic hoops that most researchers simply don't want to jump through. Neuroscientist Carl Hart.
There are not many people studying marijuana. It's very difficult to get approval to study marijuana.
What's nice about Israel is that the government is helping the research to happen.
And it's research that could give hope to patients like Charlotte Figge.
I made it.
Scientists in Israel are learning that marijuana use might actually protect the brain, not damage it.
They've been able to show that it can decrease the amount of brain damage from head injuries in mice.
To be able to give a medicine after the injury to reverse some of the damage, that's huge.
I want to paint my nails.
You want to paint your nails? I'll paint your nails.
I literally see Charlotte's brain making connections that haven't been made in years. It's almost seeming to build her brain, where before it seemed broken.
And while scientists are still at the very early stages of knowing if this is actually happening, I can tell you it was remarkable to see her progress. In the 3 months since we first met her, we saw a change. She was now talking more.
Say puppy. Yeah.
She's horseback riding.
Good girl.
She even rides a bike on her own. And the special strain made for Charlotte is now named for her. It's Charlotte's Web.
It is Charlotte's plant.
It's Charlotte's plant. Not anymore. Now it's for all the children.
More than 41 children are using Charlotte's Web here in Colorado. All of them are reporting significant seizure reduction. And there are dozens more on a wait list, hoping, praying that a plant could change their lives, just like it did for Charlotte.
I'm gonna get you.
You both seem very at peace.
I'm very at peace, yeah. Very peaceful.
We've been given a great life. You know, it's unfortunate that Charlie has this Dravet syndrome, but thank God we've got something now that's working. And she's doing so great today.
In his compelling documentary, Weed.
You've looked at the evidence.
There is real science now out there.
He was flat out wrong about weed.
A year-long journey that changed what many of us thought about marijuana, myself included.
I think, we've been terribly and systematically misled.
We used to only picture this. Then we showed you this. Medical marijuana, treating seizures, pain, dozens of other ailments.
Charlotte's doing amazing. Just better and better each month.
But we learned this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning.
I
think we went from about 150 calls a month to over 4,000.
There are still so many issues to be addressed. The federal government says marijuana is among the most addictive drugs with no medicinal value. Many serious scientists say they're wrong.
It's a medicine.
It's the politics of pot, pitting policy against patients. Trapped in the middle, sick, qualified people who want medical marijuana but can't get it because it's illegal.
If you tried to go back to Ohio with Jordan's medication,
we'll be arrested.
All for a plant that you're going to see can work wonders for pain in a grown man, MS in a woman at the peak of her life, and seizures in a little girl. We traveled the globe asking scientists, patients, and policymakers for a solution. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, and this is Weed 2, Cannabis Madness. This time our journey begins in New Jersey, ironically called the Garden State. It's the summer of 2013, a quiet neighborhood diner about to become the site of a headline-making confrontation. Between a frantic father, Brian Wilson, and the outspoken governor, Chris Christie, all over Wilson's 2-year-old daughter, Vivian.
I was wondering what the holdup is. It's been like 2 months now, or a month and a half. This is very well documented.
These are complicated issues.
It's a very simple issue.
Listen, no, I know you think it's simple.
It was a David and Goliath moment. You've got a governor who's one of the leading Republicans in the nation, and this dad who's got a little girl who he's desperately worried and in love with, who just wants to do the best thing for her.
You see, Brian Wilson's daughter, Vivian, was dying. Her brain continuously locked in seizures, and nothing had worked. The Wilsons were now pinning their hopes on medical marijuana. They'd read about marijuana on the internet, and they saw stories about it saving lives. Like little Charlotte Figge, whose story was told in our first documentary, Weed.
I remember I was actually at the gym on the treadmill, and I saw a preview. I was watching the TV. I was so excited because I knew that everything was going to change at that moment.
They hoped marijuana would rescue Vivian from the virtual prison she lives in, where bright lights, loud sounds, and patterns can all induce a seizure. That's why she wears that patch on her eye.
If Vivi could be blindfolded, she'd be seizure-free because it's everything. It's all visual stimuli. She can't leave the house.
Vivian, do you know this book?
Vivian and I first played together in her darkened, quiet, very controlled bedroom. It quickly became clear how tremendous a toll this isolation takes on Vivian, but also the entire family. No one here has a normal life, including Vivian's older sister.
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you. It's a battle these families understand better than anyone.
There's no hope left in Miami. There was nothing else to do.
Each of these families wanted medical marijuana for their sick children. They also fought to get it in their home states, but lost. So they moved to Colorado, where it's legal. Desperate and determined, they've become known as medical marijuana refugees.
I came from Arizona.
We left a lot back in Alabama.
Unfortunately, we had to break the news to his folks that we're not going to be coming back to Texas.
More than 100 families moving to get the marijuana they had seen in our last documentary. It's called Charlotte's Web, named for the little girl we profiled. It's a plant that doesn't get you high, but is loaded with a chemical called cannabidiol, or CBD, which seems to help reduce seizures, even when nothing else has worked. It changed Charlotte's life.
Because the drier it is, it'll extract more.
Thousands of parents called to ask the growers, Josh Stanley and his brothers, if it could possibly work for their children.
And you tell them, potentially, it could. Nothing's for sure. And I said, well, unfortunately, you have to move to Colorado.
And the reason they have to move to Colorado is what?
Because anything that's grown in Colorado has to stay in Colorado.
It's the most absurd idea that we would have to do this to get medicine.
But it's the law. Marijuana is illegal federally. So even if you're prescribed it legally in a medical marijuana state, even if it works, even if it is your last hope, you're out of luck. You can't carry it across state lines. So for the Wilsons, completely uprooting their lives and moving seemed to be the only option to help Vivian.
It's the hardest thing in the world to have to do. We have all of our family here. We have our job. There's so much that we'd have to do.
But just weeks after the dust-up in the diner, just around the time the Wilsons allowed us to start filming their story exclusively, we received word that Governor Christie had eased his stance.
Madam Speaker, Senate Bill 2842 has received 70 votes in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, and 4 abstentions.
Eventually, the state of New Jersey did allow the edible form of marijuana after all, but the Wilsons still had another roadblock. They couldn't get their doctors to prescribe it.
There's a certain level within the epilepsy community of just fear that you could do more harm than good, and until you go through the standard process, you should be conservative.
And by standard process, he means scientific research. And as you're about to learn, that is nearly impossible to conduct here in the United States.
It's time to reform the system.
I love you so much. Have fun on the airplane.
Leaving people like the Wilsons in a painful and potentially deadly limbo. The exclusive journey to save their daughter when we come back. At one of the state's largest medical marijuana dispensaries. Customers run the gamut of ages and ailments.
Busy day. It's always a busy day, yes, sir.
Each strain, a different high. Each bud, a different benefit. Each leaf, treating a different ailment.
Everything from menthol floss to AK-47 to green crack.
Exactly, to
the
blue
creative
dream.
names. Did you name any of these?
No.
No.
The names are quirky, but the owner says this is serious medicine.
How hard is this to do?
Good luck. Good luck. Huh? It's tough. It requires persistence, patience, and luck.
This is Josh Stanley and his 5 brothers. They're a handsome, well-educated, tight-knit group, all working together to make millions in Colorado's cannabis madness.
So how have things changed here?
You're looking at new crop. This is a never-ending cycle.
The Stanleys sell many different kinds of medical marijuana. High THC strains tend to be the moneymakers, but they're now famous for growing a less profitable plant called Charlotte's Web. It's low in THC, but high in CBD, cannabidiol. Remember that name. It's the key therapeutic chemical doctors are using to treat everything from chronic pain to lupus to Crohn's disease and epilepsy.
So 80% of this farm is now a high CBD, low THC. I mean, this is the exact opposite of what people think of when they think of marijuana. This won't get you high.
You can set the whole hippie population of Colorado loose on this plant, and you're just going to be looking at a bunch of disappointed hippies.
The Stanleys are not concerned about disappointing hippies. They've seen this plant change lives. They have a brand new lab manned with scientists who are turning their plants into medicines. Brother Joel Stanley is in charge of that part of the business.
It wasn't a world that I knew, so we kind of had to dive into this and learn about how to make plant extracts.
Joel was reluctant at first to get involved. He'd avoid